very bustling household here, so my kids may come in, my dog might come in, my wife might come in, but that's life. It's Saturday. I'm at home. That's the way things go.
Okay, everyone that is watching us right now, we don't have anybody here yet, but I'm going to start this live stream by letting everyone know, and this will be reposted as a regular video, okay? Because typically, anytime you do a live stream, they get buried at the end of the YouTube channel, right? They're not as popular as a real video. So my intent will be to download it and then post it on my channel so people can see this conversation that happened between Audio Research News president and CEO, and of course, a man that you have known for quite some time now, who is the lead designer of Cora acoustic speakers, Valerio Cora. So for the first time ever on this channel, we will have a live Q&A. The audience will be able to ask anything they want directly to Valerio Cora. Okay, I will be the moderator of the questions. So if you have any interesting questions, respectful questions, I must say, I will be more than happy to highlight those so that the audience can read them and we begin to have a very nice, healthy discussion about this iconic American brand. First and foremost, thank you, Valerio, for the opportunity to use my platform actually to talk to the world about the current state of audio research and, of course, your vision. Everyone is interested in knowing about the vision that you have, the strategy. What should we see with regards to audio research going forward?
Good morning, Jay. Thank you very much for inviting me here. It's a pleasure. And it's great that this is the first time you're doing it. It's another first between me and you.
Yeah.
The last one was the live comments on the video down in Florida, which has grown to be something that you regularly do on your platform. And
Yes.
now we have this. So it's great that we're doing this. Thank you very much.
I'm happy to have you here. Once again, if you are joining us now and you have a very, very good, interesting question for Valerio, I would be more than happy to highlight your question and let him answer your question, anything that is related to audio research. Okay, so the way this is going to go, if of course time permits, we're going to do a two-part interview. We're going to talk about first and foremost audio research. That's going to be the primary focus of this interview. And then towards the end, if we have time, we can get into Cora acoustics and anything you may want to share with us about your first baby, the first company that I would say put you on the map. So I know you from Cora acoustics, if I'm being honest, Valerio. So
as do most people. You mean, obviously, audio research was never on my target to acquire. It was taking a company that should not be let go under in an industry that requires the greatness and the iconic brands to remain great and iconic brands. So when the opportunity presented itself that I could step in and save that company and make it bigger and better and grow, absolutely, I'm going to jump in 100%. I had to take it over before you did. I know you had your eyes on it too. I saw that.
Oh
smile.
yeah, I wish I would have had the money to buy it. I'm not there, but you know what? This is actually a perfect segue into the first question I want to ask you, which is why the desire to buy Audio Research? What enticed you about this company that made you want to cross the border and come out and buy this iconic American brand?
I've always been an audio research fanboy. The first shows I did, if you go back, the Toronto audio show that I did, which was the very first show for Cora, was all audio research gear. I own audio research gear at home amongst many other brands, but it has been one of my primary brands. And it was the same concern that a lot of audiophiles had, and a lot of the audiophiles that love audio research. When we heard that audio research was in trouble, for lack of better words. When they were going through difficult times due to financial things and changes in the bank system and just what was happening, I had to step in. I just couldn't let that brand go down. The opportunity
Very
presented itself, and I mean, hey, a lot of life is the opportunities in front of you. You got to grab them when they're there. So, hence, I grabbed it because it was there.
now. I actually gave inaccurate information about what it cost the entire acquisition of all your research. So I gave the wrong figures. So I want you to tell everyone what is it that you paid for the company.
$1,088,888.18. As you can see, I like the number 8.
I see that. I see that. And that is obviously an interesting number, which I told you. I definitely miscalculated it by like $800,000, but it's neither here or there. I am here correcting that information because I think it is important that we get it right and for everyone to understand, what went down. Now, you started the negotiation process how long ago? Because I know this is.
I found out about financial issues at Audio Research just before Expona. In fact, Trent came down to me and spoke to me at Expona about Audio Research, and I mean I'll let the cards drop wherever they drop when they drop, as far as the bank and the treatment of Trent and what happened in that avenue. But the reality was, I knew about it at Expona. When the entire auction process started happening, we literally had 10 days to make a bid and to make an offer and go through there and evaluate the business and see if it was a business worth continuing. And the reality is, I bought the business there because, with partners, but I bought the business because I saw the people there. And the business is only the people. Audio Research is a name. The 21 people that work there and have been there, most of them have been there at least 3 to 4 years, and the average person's been there probably over 20 years. We've got people in
Wow.
there that have been there 35, 37, 40 years.
Wow.
That's the company. The company is the people. The name is only that. It is only a name at the end of the day. And those people are lifelong committed to Audio Research and to the great products they make. They're one of the premier brands on the planet. We can all agree to that.
Absolutely.
And why let it go down when you still had the people and the staff and the talent that was there? Why let it go under? It just didn't make sense to me. It was a way to save 21 jobs of people, of hardworking people, and at the same time, the bonus is it's an iconic brand. Absolutely.
Without a doubt, I dare to say definitely within the top 3, top 4 American brands of all time. We have,
Yes.
of course, Macintosh, we have Wilson Audio, we have a lot of other brands that have been highlighting as of late. So I have to believe that definitely Audio Research is in that group. And by the way, I received countless emails about concerns when it came to the brand itself from actual Audio Research owners who were very, very nervous, on the verge of selling their gear because they were in fear of the uncertainty within Audio Research. And from everything that was being publicated on social media, on forums, so there is never really a clear understanding or a clear channel that distributes these news, which is why it's great that you're here, so that those owners finally can be relaxed and all those concerns are put to sleep. Now, one question that I do have is, what is your vision? What's the strategy with the company? What do you have? What do you see going forward with Audio Research?
Well, let's go back one step. Of the people that were looking to sell Audio Research, we're getting a little bit nervous about it because the brand, yes, was in peril and we didn't have any understanding. But you realize the used price of Audio Research gear actually went up instead of down at that point in time, because as soon as you start selling off an iconic brand, or people are thinking, hey, these are the last of the Ref 6 SEs that are ever going to be around, or these are the last of the Ref 10s that are ever going to be around. These are fantastic and phenomenal products that people want to own and want to have. So the current owners, anybody who got nervous about it, they actually found the benefit. The product went up, and that speaks to the quality and the benefit of owning one of these products. As far as what's the short-term plan and the long-term plan for Audio Research, to be better than ever. We're not going to go in there and change something that already works. The products are not the problem there. The people are not the problem there. So I'm not going to go in there and start sweeping and cleaning up house and changing everything that's there, because that's not what's necessary. We're going to grow the brand. We're going to increase. We're going to make new products that were already on the product. There's always new products being developed by any company. I mean,
Sure.
you have two ways to go in business. You either go up or you go down. There's no such thing as a level platform in business. You're either growing or you're shrinking. So we're going to continue to grow the company. We're going to continue to make new products and develop new products, but we're going to base them on the ideologies that already are at Audio Research, which is to make the best product we possibly can.
Now, question about product warranty. Can you tell us a little bit about current product warranty? It's something that I've had a lot of emails about. Are you still supporting that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, even though we are not legally obliged to honor any warranties, that's not the way I am. Any warranty on the products, the warranties, I mean, as we state, past, present, and future are exactly the same as what they were. Anybody who has a product in warranty, it will be treated as an in warranty product. That has not changed. That is one liability that we're going to take on ourselves because we believe in the product. I mean, every product has a defect rate. Our defect rate is, I believe, 1 to 2%, which is well within industry standards and probably one of the top in the industry, to be honest with you. I mean, we believe in the product. If it breaks down in warranty, we'll take care of it. And even more importantly, if it breaks out of warranty, we will be fair at repair charges. But I mean, we strive, or should I say, the people that are there and have been there for the last 50 years, and the goal of the company since its inception is to repair every product they've ever made. I mean, we have a huge inventory of parts for almost every product that's ever been made. There are a few of them that, I mean, unfortunately, due to attrition and times, some of those parts are missing, but those are very, very few. The vast majority of any product that's ever been built by Audio Research can be repaired today.
That's great to know. And the next question I have is with regards to tubes, because of the war that we have seen, there's a lot of difficulties getting tubes. Do you have a supply of tubes? Can people buy tubes in the event that their tubes, are going bad? Do you have a supply that they can buy right away if they need to?
Tubes are very difficult to come by right now. That's the honest truth of it. But the reality is, yes, we're stocking up on tubes at this point in time. We just got in 1,000 tubes of one type, of 600 of another type, 500 of another type. We're very well stocked in tubes, and we've opened up channels. I mean, that's been part of my my first few weeks there, because literally this happened June the 20th. You got to remember that this did not actually close till June the 21st. We're only a few weeks in. We've already secured more than 3,000 tubes coming in, and we've set up open POs with the tube manufacturers so that is not a problem. The tubes are out there. Are they in shorter supply? Absolutely. Everything's in short supply right now, from computers, laptops, IC chips. Everything's in short supply. It's not just tubes. So I mean, let's not fool ourselves and say, "Hey, tubes are short because of the war." IC chips are short because of COVID and because of manufacturing in China. What isn't really short? Food is at an all-time high in cost because of shortages there. So I mean, there's a global shortage going on. Tubes are just being highlighted at this point in time.
That's a good point, actually. It's always a concern, of a lot of people, because the news. You start reading forums, which I've always told people, stay away from forums when you want to know the truth. That's not the most reliable place to get your information from. But, very few people listen. But that's, on each one of them. Are you currently living in the United States now that you bought this company, and you probably have so many processes that you need to put in place? Where are you currently residing, Valerio?
No, I'm staying in Toronto, Canada. The people at Audio Research, again, are phenomenal people. Like I said, I didn't buy a company name. I bought the belief in the insurance in the people that are already there. We've taken two of the lead people there, which is Les Robinson and Evan Shukas. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced his last name, because I only know him as Evan. And we've promoted to co-GM, and they're technically running the company for me at this point in time, and they're doing a fantastic job. Dave Gordon is there representing the company. He's been the face of Audio Research for 30 years, and he's still there. So I mean, the people that have been there are still there. They can manage the back end. They can build the products. They know exactly what they're doing. The front end, I mean, that I don't need to be on site for. I don't need to babysit a team of professionals. That's not my job. My job is to encourage them, to make sure we have all the resources we need to make a fantastic product to bring out to the people. That is my job.
So well said. Right now, I want to tell everyone, if you have an interesting question you want to ask Valerio Cora with regards to audio research, please post it. I will choose your question and let him answer directly. Okay, so this is going to be a very, very first opportunity for all of you to ask questions. I had promised you all that I was going to have him here front and center answering your concerns, and he's doing exactly that. So definitely, I want to thank you for this opportunity once again, Valerio, when it comes to sharing with us what's going on with audio research. Do you see, now that you have, of course, your owner of Valerio of Cora Acoustics and also audio research, are you going to be displaying your loudspeakers only with audio research, or are you still going to continue to partner with others like VAC, Hagel, and many other brands that I've seen your loudspeakers at shows be displayed with?
Both products have a synergistic quality to them that is absolutely fantastic, and they work really, really well together. But on that note, they work really, really well with other products as well. And no, we will be showing with other products. We are not going to be mutual. We're not going to be exclusive. In fact, we're probably going to show maybe even less than we were before. I mean, the Florida Audio Show, we're already slated to show with VAC as we are at Expona. You know, I mean, at Capital Audio Fest, whether we have a room or not, we're going to be showing with other manufacturers. So absolutely not. You mean the two companies will work together with one another, and I mean, they'll both be there, but they're both independent companies. There's really not a lot of crossing, but they are definitely not mutually exclusive to one another. That is not part of my plan, target, or that's not going to happen.
That's good to know that they're going to be separate entities, and essentially they'll carry on as they have in the past. So you'll see audio research with Wilson Audio, which is one of the primary brands that we see display with audio research. You'll see it with many other different brands. So that's great to know that that's not going to change. I'm going to take some questions right now that I have seen pop up on the chat. So I'm going to start with this question from Joe, so that Valerio can answer. I think this is an
Sorry, Jay, let me just interrupt you for 1 second. I am at home. This is my weekend. My family's here with me. So if you hear a dog bark, my daughter, my wife, this is life. I'm at home living today. So
okay.
And any noises you guys hear, hey, that's my family, and please accept that.
No problem. Here's Joe asking a question. See if you can answer that.
I can't read it on my screen because I'm on a little cell phone. So can you read it for me,
Jay? Any chance we will see some solid state amp designs from audio research in the future?
Absolutely. I'm not akin to saying audio research only has to do tubes, and in the past, audio research has done solid state designs. I will leave that up to my engineering team to build the best products they possibly can, regardless of topology, whether they're tube or solid state, and we will sonically evaluate them at that point in time. If we can build a fantastic Class J amplifier just for throwing something out that doesn't actually exist, which I'm sure it does, but it doesn't matter, then that's what we will use. Our target here is to make the best sounding products in the world. The topologies, that's the geniuses of my engineers to determine what that'll be. And I mean, I will do sonic evaluation with a team of people. And if that's what we feel is the best product in that without considerations, then that's what'll come out. No, I'm not going to say, hey, we're a tube company only. That's not the road I go down.
Okay, great to know. I have a question from Yannick. He's asking if audio research is going to increase the compatibility between speakers and amplifiers. Essentially, I guess what he's getting at is, will we see more synergistic effects between audio research and Cora? Are you going to start building your speakers utilizing audio research product?
Audio research products have always been one of my references for Cora. And I mean, so has Roland, so has Boulder, so has Luxman, so has, I mean, I probably have 20 different amplifiers I use. Will the same type of development happen in audio research? Absolutely. I mean, there's Wilson in there right now, there's Klipsch in there, there's Magnapans, there's Acoras, there's Sonus Barbers. That's not going to change. We need to blend with every other product out there and make them as compatible as possible. I mean, I'm very against the ostrich in the sand analogies where we're only going to build for ourselves and nobody else and not care about everybody else. We have to care about everything out there, and we're going to make the best products we possibly can. So yes, absolutely. The answer to that is absolutely. We're gonna try and build the most compatible products. Now, I mean, that's as Jay has learned, as we all learn, some products work better with other products. That's
Yes.
just the way things go.
No
I mean,
doubt.
so I mean that's but we will strive to make our products as compatible with other products as possible.
Okay, David Cross is asking if you will be offering additional premium, higher graded, tested, and profile tubes at some point, better quality tubes at some point, if that's something that you can see in the future for some end users. Because the truth is, and I'm guilty of that, okay, I'll buy a tube amplifier, a preamplifier, and eventually we start tinkering with tubes. And just knowing that there is that option to purchase your component with a better match set of tubes can be very, I think, very enticing for some users. I think some people are willing to pay for higher quality tubes than the typical standard stock tubes that most brands offer with their product.
Okay, we test each and every tube that goes into our product, so that's already being done, and that's already part. I mean, of what happens at Audio Research, and I know this from a consumer side standpoint, not from an owner or a part of the Audio Research team. Every single tube that goes into their products are thoroughly tested, and they're graded in order to work where they need to be. I mean, that's why there's a premium price on the tubes when you buy them from our tube store. Is because they already been matched to be the highest grade possible. Will we go into, let's say, instead of using an EH tube into a reflector for something? No, because it's not fair to the general public, to the standard people, that, I mean, we're going to use a tube that's pretty much unattainable in one special model or another special model and tune that circuit for that tube, because at the long run that's not going to work properly. So we use tubes that we know are available. We grade those tubes very, very carefully, and we make the best products we possibly can using tubes that are sourceable, properly sourceable and gradable.
Understood. If you can, if it's possible, I think this is something that could be interesting. Do you have any new future products that you might be able to give us some information on? Anything new that Audio Research is cooking in the kitchen?
The only thing that's The only thing that's cooking in the kitchen right now are the reference 320 models, which have been worked on now for almost 18 months, and are going through the cycle to make sure that they are to the standard that Audio Research wants them to be at. Once they are ready, which hopefully will be later this year, they will come out. If they're not ready, if they're not to our grade, they won't come out. It's very simple. Other products, we will develop them. But Jay, I mean, just to be fair to myself, I've been in this company now for literally 14 days or 20 days. This is a plan that has to stretch out the next 6 months. Will we have new products? Absolutely. Do I know what they're going to be at this point in time? Absolutely not.
It's very difficult. Someone is asking if we will see higher reference products for Audio Research. Anything, he calls it, anything that Jay's Audio Lab can use in his lab with his Wilson Audio Chronosonic. So I'm assuming he means, like, for instance, I don't know if the 750 SEs are still being manufactured. Are those still in production? The 750 SE model?
The 750 SELs are still in production. It's still one of the best amplifiers on the planet. Forget about price point. The Ref 10 Phono and the Ref 10 Line Stage preamp and Phono Stage are two of the best products on the planet, and can be used in Jay's Audio Lab right now or in any incredibly high-end system, including my own. It's what I use at home, and I have access to a lot of products. I love the way Audio Research sounds. It touches me, and it's an emotional connection for me. Does that instantly mean it's going to be the exact product that you're going to fall in love with? No, but it is in the top 1 percentile of all the products out there. Just because I love a Ferrari and you love a Porsche doesn't mean that I'm right and you're wrong. It's
Yeah.
what touches you. It's what you want. It's what me is meaningful to you.
Another question I'm getting is, how about ultra high end home theater? Are you ever going to enter the home theater arena? Is that something that you can see as part of your future plans with audio research? There's
I never
always
say
people looking.
I never say never. You mean theater bypass circuits are becoming more and more common on two-channel equipment. So will we incorporate theater bypass? Probably, because it's not a difficult thing to do. Will we actually enter the home theater market? That hasn't been decided at this point in time, but I will never say never to anything like that.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I keep getting questions on. People are always inquisitive about even my home theater setup. People are always asking because they see, to your point, it's usually seen in most rooms where people are combining the home theater with the two-channel experience because
Mm-hmm.
they want to watch Netflix and then turn it off and listen to music, or vice versa. So there is always some of those questions coming my way everywhere. But that's the reality of the situation here. Let me see. I'm looking for another question. Uh, this is a good one. Chavez asking if there are any ambitions to branch out to, for instance, something like power conditioning, grounding, cables. We see other brands starting to branch out into those uh, different segments of production.
Again, I will never say never, but the reality is, I very much am a believer in sticking in your lane and not going out of your fortes. I know the common, or I mean, the trend in Europe is, I mean, you want to buy you want to buy the entire thing from one company, not to look outside. And there's the drive. If it's all designed together, then it has to be synergistically better and match up, et cetera, et cetera. There are things to say for that. I'm not going to say that that's not a good. Um, I'm not going to say that that's not a good business model to do that. But at this point in time, our forte is in preamplifiers, amplifiers, DACs, and the products we currently build. Am I going to dilute the talent to start moving into different products such as cables and turntables and all the rest of it? No, not
Okay,
at this point.
now
It's
at this
not.
point.
It's not in the near future. Again, I'll never say never, but at this point, it's not on. It's not on the plan at all. Not for either companies.
Not on the map at this point. You don't see it in the near future. That's understood. Will we see a reference? This is a great question from Joe. Will we see a reference tube DAC from Audio Research at some point?
Uh,
The big heavy hitters that we typically see, Lamp and Sater, we see the MSBs of the world, the DCSs of the world. I know Audio Research has a quality DAC, but I guess they're just thinking. And again, I'm going to restructure this question. I think what they're asking is, will we see an expensive reference DAC from Audio Research at some point?
it would be one of my desires, but again, it's not on the drawing board at this point in time. Let's solidify the products we have right now. Let's make sure we have all the production in place for all the products we have right now, and there is a development program. I assure you that there will be a development program in place very, very quickly in order to go through the product line and decide where we want to go next. And I mean, that's up open for internal discussion at this point in time, and there has been talks about it. So I will say that the future is very, very promising and bright for audio research and for new products. A lot of people will be very happy with the direction we are going.
Okay, so there is. Let me see. I actually agree with you there, and to me, I guess what I'm getting from you is that you're very focused on the current portfolio, the lineup of products that you have today. You're trying to make sure that those are continuing to be sold and obviously manufactured to the highest standards before you begin to think about what's tomorrow, what are we going to do tomorrow, what products are we going to be releasing tomorrow, with the exception of the 320, which to your earlier point has been in a design phase. Almost, I'm assuming is about to be released soon, the 320 audio research amplifier, correct?
We are working on it, and I mean the we're targeting late this fall for it to come out. But I mean
Okay.
it's past prototype at this point. We're doing listening tests and evaluations. So I mean the look is very promising for late this fall. But like I said, if it doesn't meet Jay, you know my standards. You've listened to my products. You know, you've listened to my rooms. I mean, my standards I think are incredibly high. And if they don't meet my standards, I'd rather not release the product than just release it because hey, we have to do it. And that's literally the stumbling block for new products as well. We have some of the best products on the planet right now. Unless they're significantly better, I'm not going to just release a product to release it.
Okay, here's a very interesting question from Blog High End Definition. He's asking, what will be changed by audio research to not repeat the same story, basically, in your opinion? And I know it's a very difficult question to ask, but they want to know this happened. I think maybe can't remember how many times we've seen this uncertainty with the brand, but what do you feel needs to be done in your mind to make sure that we mitigate all these issues going forward so that in 12 months from now, we're not hearing from you that you're stepping down and that the company now is being sold once again to somebody else? Because that's seen all the time, right? And I can understand from an end user their concern with today. That's the conversation what you and I are having, but 12 months from today, is that going to be the case? Can you tell us a little bit about that, as far as like what is it that you think needs to be done this time around in order to ensure that the company continues to stay in a very healthy status with a lot of health going forward, that we can see a bloom and come out with far better products than we have ever seen before?
Jay, if you know where to get that magic lamp to tell me what the future is going to be, please tell me where I can go get it because I would love to rub it and know what the future is. That's
Yes.
the reality. What the past is the past. And I mean, audio research, I mean, when it went through its first phase, when it was sold, I mean, the very first time was because William Johnson decided to retire and come out of the company. And I mean, unfortunately, 2.5 years later, 3 years later, he was no longer with us, which is a very sad thing, but it tells you how much passion he had for the company to be there till, I mean, let's say his final breaths. I mean, it went then through some changes because of different ideas and ideologies behind the product and what it should be and how it should be and where it fit into the marketplace and where it fit into the brand lines of the groups that it was currently in. I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent, that's what happened for those years. After that, Trent Suggs decided to buy the company and go forward with it. And Trent was very, very dedicated and a great person and put his heart and soul into this company. I mean, depending on which side, and like I said, the number, what actually happened is not for me to put out speculation or tell you this is what happened because that's not me. That's not the person I am. I mean, bank decided to do what it did for whatever reasons it had. I mean, and they put him into a financial situation that he did the only thing he knew how to do to save the company. He put it to asset management in order to find a new buyer for audio research. His heart was in the right place. And we're going forward with that. I mean, do I have the financial resources to make sure that the struggles that Trent was in are not going to happen? I do. That's all that needs to be known at this point in time. I mean, it's the finances that go behind it. If we take out some of the stuff that happened in the company was actually a profitable company. That's the sad part out of all of this. It was actually running. It was a company that was, they weren't making millions of dollars. They weren't losing millions either. I mean, the numbers were very, very small, a lot smaller than people think they were. That triggered this entire cascade of where we are today.
Okay, that's definitely an interesting thing. I have a good question here from someone who's asking, we've had a lot of conversations about Cora acoustics and obviously the passion that you put into this product, right? But there's always those that wonder, and we want to know your view, by the way, as far as like how important are measurements to you? Measurements, because here you are designing loudspeakers, but now you are on a tube-based audio company where I don't know if measurements are really that important when it comes to tube gear. Tell us where you sit as far as measurements, because it's so different, the two different types of product that you offer now.
The day that everything could be absolutely measured with every single test and we can get a true representation of what is being played by all those measurements, I will 150% believe in measurements. Right now, our measurements measure a fraction of all available nuances and differences. How do you measure imaging? How do you measure depth of field? How do you measure height of image? How do you measure so many different things that we know change the sonic perception of our equipment? So I very much believe in measurements. Measurements are an important, incredibly important tool to get us to a very far down the line. But I mean, as much as people want to call it black magic or know-how or I mean, um, inner spirit, whatever you want to call it. The reality is, most of the very high end products, or most of the high end products, are designed to measurements and then tuned by ear, because it does make a difference. I mean, we can try and make a Stradivarius violin. We know all the technologies in it. We can measure it. We can measure the thickness of the wood. We can measure the densities. We can measure this. We can measure that. We can't recreate it. Why? Is it because there's magic secret sauce somewhere there, or is it because our measurements are not detailed enough to tell us what we're actually missing?
Okay, great. One question is, will we see Jay's Audio Lab doing a factory tour of audio research?
That's up to Jay. If he wants to fly up to Minneapolis, Maple Grove, absolutely. If you want to do it in the middle of winter, we can go skiing. And after that, you'd look good on a ski hill.
Does anyone here want to see me do a factory tour of audio research the way I just did with Boulder amplifiers? Drop a comment. Question that I have is with regards to pricing. Are those going to be reevaluated, or will they stay the same? Because we see all the time where changing of the guard can also impact pricing for good or bad. Maybe you can share some of that.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to impact pricing. The global economic trend is going to impact pricing. Food's gone up by double. Gas has gone up by 30, 40, 50%.
True.
Parts have gone up by 30, 40, 50%. I mean, audio research has been actually very, very stable in pricing. I think in the last, I mean, again, I don't know these numbers exactly, so somebody please don't crucify me if I'm wrong on these numbers, but I think that the Ref 6 SC, for instance, was $18,000 5 years ago or 6 years ago. I think the retail on it right now is around $22,000. So the price increase has roughly been 20% when everything else has gone up by 50 or even 100% or 40 or 50%. So are the prices going to remain stable? I don't know. We will evaluate our BOMs. We will evaluate what it costs to put in a stable supply of everything. And if the prices have to go up, they'll go up. If they can go down, they'll go down. That's the reality of that answer. They will reflect the market situation.
That's actually one of the most interesting things that you've said as far as pricing potentially going down. I've seen that AccuFace has a new distributor, US distributor, and they actually lower their prices, which is absolutely amazing. When I made this video about the AccuFace E800 integrated when it was first released in my early days of my YouTube channel, I criticized it for being, I think, $20,000, $22,000 USD. And I just wasn't impressed for the money, what it was bringing to the table. And when I went to Munich, I connected with the new US distributor, and he informed me that it went down to like 12, 13 grand USD. That's a significant decrease in price. And so seeing something like that to me is one of the greatest things that can happen, because we oftentimes see the opposite occurring, which is price increases consistently. I mean, I swear to you that every other month, or if not every month, I'm getting brand new pricing for at least one brand that is increasing their prices. So we keep seeing this. And this is a perfect segue to my next question. Now that you are a president and CEO of an iconic, or two iconic brands now, does that ever scare you that you begin as a brand to price yourself out of most people's budgets?
No, to be honest with you, no, because my design philosophy has always been to build to the need, not to a price point. Second, you start building to a price point, I think you've hogtied yourself and you start having to compromise. Compromise is the enemy of any product, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I do believe very much in trickle down technology, though. I mean, you take, again, I keep going back to the automotive industry, but that's because they're leaders in this. You go to all the new Porsche 911s and all those, they all trickled down from the 959. The 959 was what, $1 million car? and then the technology trickles down. Volkswagen built a a lot of people call a white elephant or a white. I mean, a car that lost money called the VW Phaeton. Okay, in 2004, the cars were $100,000 more or less, and sold very poorly across North America. But the technology that came out of that car that was built by VW and Bentley is now found in every Audi, every Volkswagen, every Porsche, and almost every Bentley on the planet. So yes, they lost money on that car, but it allowed them to develop these technologies that are now coming out in cars at much lower price ranges. And we will go from the same technology. We will shoot for the sky with our engineering departments, and then once we've achieved these products, which we already have, then we'll see, okay, how can we make this product 99% of this and try and save 50% of the cost? If it's possible, of course we'll do it. We want everybody to enjoy music as best as possible, and bring it to the most affordable price points as possible. Now, I mean, that's a very, very difficult task to do. But again, I mean, my belief is I will not release a product that I will not use myself. I mean, it has. I'm not going to just release a product at $2,000 just to say, "Hey, I have something on the shelf for $2,000." That's not my ideology of how I want to develop this company.
I like what you said, and I think most people can appreciate your, how candid you are about your with your answers. Essentially, you are very, very open, and really, I respect that a lot. The fact that you didn't. I thought you were going to say the opposite, to be honest with you, but you said it, very clearly. We are shooting for the best design and functionality possible, and unfortunately, if that brings us to a higher price point, it is what it is. There's nothing we can do to contain the inflation and all these costs that are associated, right? Labor that is consistently going up. You have to give your employees a raise every year. This is something that I think many of us, including myself, sometimes fail to see, which is that building a product is not just grabbing a screwdriver and putting it all together and ordering all the aluminum you're going to need for the next 2 years so that you can control the price, right, of aluminum. It also has to do with labor. It also has to do with manpower, everyone who works under that roof. And people have an expectation of getting a yearly raise due to inflation. Mm-hmm. And so if you are giving, and I forgot to do the this research, which is what's the average yearly raise salary increase in the United States. I think it was like 3.5 or something like that a year. So and again, I want to make sure the viewers understand this. If audio research doesn't increase prices, but audio research employees are expecting a raise at the end of the year, how can audio research make everyone happy? You can't. Like that 3%, 4%, 5%, whatever it is, has to come from somebody, because if not, your profit margin becomes less and less and less, to the point that it doesn't even make sense anymore to run a business because the profitability won't be there. And so those are things that I think many of us, including myself, fail to see and understand. Okay, even if audio research were to buy every single component today that they're going to use for the next 10 years to build product, from a microchip to the display to the remote control to the metal, whatever it is they use, even if they were to control those costs by buying all the raw materials, you can't control the yearly raises from that your labor demands. So this is why prices need to, unfortunately, continue to go up.
Even if I buy the parts for the next 10 years, you have storage fees that you still have to store it, so it's not free. Second off, if you have any sort of loan or whatever to buy these products, they're going to cost you money anyways, just sitting there in a bucket. And even if I have the money to buy this all outright and I let it sit in a bucket, my money could be earning interest and at least inflation just sitting in a bank, not to mention better things. So why, buying all these parts still doesn't fix prices. Okay, inflation is inflation. That's just the way our economy works. Does there have to be regular price increases? Absolutely. And I think regular price increases are the solution to these massive price increases that everybody goes out and says, "Oh my God, it just went up by 30%." Well, if we go up 30% in 6 years, it's pretty much equivalent. I'd have to do the math, but it's probably the equivalent of going up 3.5% for 6 years compounded. we're roughly the same. That 3.5 to 4% a year, you're going to say, oh, that's not bad. Do the same thing 6 years later and raise price by 30% because you were trying to hold your price point, and now people look at you and go, oh, you're out of your mind. You just raised your price by 30%. You're just trying to price gouge us. I mean, that's just the economy. Unfortunately, that's the way things go. I mean, the forecast right now that I heard the other day, they're saying inflation might hit 12% this year. Well,
Oh my God.
if inflation hits 12% this year, which God, I hope it doesn't, but if it does hit 12%, you know what I mean? In 2 years, that's 30% with compound.
Something that it's very interesting to me when you mentioned 12% inflation, and you know what comes after that, right? Everything goes up, including products that we love in this hobby. And so I wonder how can not just the audio industry, we can talk about the car industry as well and many other different industries. How do you prepare for something like that and not essentially end up injuring your business model? Because as you're forced to jack up your prices because all the costs associated with what you build are going up, how do you say, man, I know it's going up, but if we jack up our prices by this much, how is that going to impact our sales at the end of the year? How are we going to see it diminish when it comes to how many boxes we sell, how many different products we're selling? Because at the end of the day, it is a business, and it's also about units sold. If we think about it, it really is.
Well, let's put it the other way. We don't raise prices. We stop making profit, and we go out of business. Which way is better? I mean, that's the reality of business. Businesses have to pay its employees. They have to pay their taxes. They have to make money. I'm not. Nobody can live for free. You can't live for free. I can't live for free. We all need to make a reasonable salary or a reasonable amount of money for whatever function we do. So I mean, I think the solution to that is regular and reasonable price increases that match inflation and match costs that are changing. Anybody that fools themselves and tries and hold a price point that becomes unrealistic, you're just dooming yourself for failure at the end of the day, and that's not a benefit to you, your customers, or your employees. And I mean, if we put our employees out on the looking for another job, does that benefit anybody? That just hurts the economy as well. So I mean, everything has to happen in a reasonable, controlled fashion. I mean, the exception to that is the gas prices. You go one day it's one price, next day it's 10% higher, next day it's 15% less. It's all over the place.
It's all over
I mean,
the place.
and we don't like it, but we still go to the gas pump and pay for it, don't we?
We have to. It's kind of like, see, that's the difference when we have to buy gas because we need it, right, for whatever it is. But audio is such a commodity that I am also the type of person that if I can't afford it brand new, I start looking at the used market, right? Secondhand market, the way many audiophiles do. And so seeing that those practices of saying, well, if they're going to keep jacking up their prices, I'm just going to have my money ready on hand so that I can scoop up a used product the moment it hits the used market. Okay. That's usually what many of us do. And I think a lot of people watching this can agree with me. But my biggest thing is, keeping the industry afloat, healthy. One of the reasons why you're here also is to begin to communicate that to everyone, that audio research is looking ahead. It's perfectly functional. The structure is fine. Everything is under warranty that should be under warranty. Nothing's changed internally other than obviously the new changing of the guard at the top. But everyone who has been working there is continuing to go in and out, feed their families the way they have been. So, definitely want to thank you first and foremost for doing this, because, it's great to see audio research continuing to survive. I take absolutely no pleasure. And by the way, I must say this to everyone. I would never be happy if I had heard that audio research had gone completely bankrupt and we have seen the last of this incredible American brand. It would have never been good, because usually it becomes a wave. Once the first one goes out, you start seeing another one follow and another one follow it and another one follow. So knowing that one stood up, was on its knees, got back up, and now there is someone else leading the charge, to me is, it's a great story, and I'm happy to be part of it here with you today, Valerio. And I look forward to seeing what else is in store, what else is coming from audio research. For a minute, I thought you were going to take the entire production to Canada. I know you didn't do it because obviously you have a lot of employees who have been there for a long time. It wouldn't be fair
Mhm.
to a lot of families, right? But I was wondering if that was not a factor, would you have taken the company to Canada and begin production in Canada if employees were not a concern of yours, which
Talent
clearly
is
they
always
are?
Talent is always the concern, Jay. A place is something that's easy. It's where do you get the talented people in order to work and produce these products. When you have a pool of some of the most talented people in the world already there, there's a reason that there's a lot of companies up in Minneapolis, Minnesota producing audio. There's not just audio research. There's a lot of other very iconic brands up there. It's because people are passionate up there for music. So it's in the culture up there. Would I take it and move it to Canada? No, I mean it's the talent pool. If I were to start a new company, would I start it in Canada, Minneapolis? That's a different question. But you don't take something that works and break it. That's as your first action is to take and break a working well-oiled machine. I mean, I know a lot of people had the fear of me taking it to Canada, or even worse, taking it over to China. And
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that happen with a lot of other brands
Yes.
because the name is there, and at that point, if all you're going to take is buy the asset of the name and exploit the name, then you're going to do what you have to do in order to maximize profitability and raise production and just sell it off the brand name. Which is, I mean, unfortunately, that's business. That is not our goal here. Our goal here, and I think I've stated this quite a few times already. Our goal is to make the best product we possibly can, and the best product we can make right now is in Minneapolis, Minnesota. If that is what we firmly believe in, and that's what I believe in from day one. Like I said, I went through the factory tour. I didn't buy the company. I bought the belief and the pride that the people at Audio Research had. That's why I bought that company, was to keep that going. And I mean, we haven't just stayed stable. We started at 21 people. I think as of yesterday, we're up to 25 or 26. We're hiring
Great.
people right now. It's
Awesome.
growing already because it needs to. We're selling product. Things are going exceptionally well. So no, we're going to come back incredibly strong. That
Amazing.
there's absolutely no question.
Okay, so that takes care of part one of this interview. Right now, I want to shift gears into Acora Acoustics. So I'm going to ask you to wear the hat of loudspeaker design. Okay, and we can step down from audio research podium and let's get on the Acora acoustic podium. Okay, one question that I have here, I'm gonna put it up on the screen, is what is Valerio's philosophy towards sound reproduction, detail, tonal quality, rhythm? People are inquiring about what is it that in your opinion makes a great loudspeaker?
It not being a loudspeaker, it fooling you into thinking you're actually listening to artists and to a live performance or a real performance, or being there with the artists. Those are all very important qualities, as are many other ones. And I know it's a cliche because we hear it 1,000 times over, that, I mean, it should disappear. But the reality is, in any audio system, my philosophy is, if you can pinpoint that this sounds like this or this sounds like this, then there's a problem. That should all disappear, and it should be, oh my God, I'm sitting here with the musicians. This is fantastic. What equipment? That's the goal. The goal is
Right.
exactly that. What equipment?
Okay. Did you have any? I know we had a brief conversation um, a few days ago, and I know you said you started this passion back in the late '90s, but you didn't become Acora Acoustics until what year?
2018. The company
2018.
was actually incorporated in 2018. Acora Technologies was incorporated in 1997.
Okay. And your passion was always directed towards loudspeaker design, never towards amplifiers, preamplifiers. No, no.
I built amplifiers and preamplifiers, Jay, when I was 10 years old. I mean,
Wow.
my dad was I mean, in his youth, he was a service technician. So I went through his RCC, training books, and his course that he had. I mean, was if I remember right, about 200 to 300 30-page manuals on technician training, and I went through all of those. That was my reading hobby when I was that age, and I was into it. So I started building amplifiers with my brother. I mean, my dad helped out once in a while, but yes, I built amps, I built preamps. Um, But I mean, speakers were always where I saw the weakest link in true audio reproduction, was in the speaker part. I mean, we there's lots of iconic amplifiers that have been around from the 50s, which still sound absolutely fantastic in preamplifiers. I mean, we listen to some of the recordings that are made in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, and they sound absolutely fantastic. They didn't have the technology of today. They had the technology back then, which uh, fortunately happens to be vacuum tubes. We all know that. I mean, we go, you went back a little while ago and said we're going to offer amplifiers with special selected vacuum tubes and so on and so forth. Well, I mean, we go back, if I can find you a pair of the EL34s, or if I can find you some some Holland 6922s, those are worth massive money because of their sonic qualities. Those are not made today. Those are made 50 years ago, and they're the holy grail of audio at this point. Speakers, I mean, most speakers have evolved. We know most speakers, we're always the weak point in the audio chain. So I went after the weak point because the rest of it, I had what I was happy with already. I mean, I still listen. I have a Luxman, a Class A Luxman amplifier from 1980, which is one of my reference amplifiers. I would still put it in the top 5% of all amplifiers on this planet.
Oh
I mean,
wow.
it's one of those holy grail amplifiers that that legends are made out of, and they're out there. So I mean, I found speakers being the weakest link, and I found the cabinet to be the weakest part of the speaker, to be honest with you. And hence, that's how Cora came around. They came around from my desire to go and, back to my first statement, to make the system completely disappear, just to have musicians in the room with me.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that was very interesting to me. The first time I laid eyes on your speakers was because of the cabinet,
Mm-hmm.
the granite cabinet, and you're very, very passionate about the material and what it does to enhance the sonic attributes of a speaker to actually make it more real sounding.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the vibration being non-existent, really. I mean, when it comes to granite. And I remember listening to your reference speakers at the Florida Audio Show, and I believe that's where I gave them Best of Show.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe the way they filled that room. I couldn't believe the way they spread their wings and just really fill. Everyone got a sweet spot essentially with that speaker.
Yep.
For me, though, I will say that having owned Magical loudspeakers, currently owning actually a Magical M3 and a Wilson Audio Chronosonic XVX.
Mm-hmm.
They are also very big when it comes to cabinet construction, right? Wilson with the composite material, they use the V material, as they
Mm-hmm.
call it, and Magico continues to, lead the charge when it comes to aluminum design, and they are
Mm-hmm.
not changing out of that. So they're very passionate about that as well. So I see that you also have the same ideas and the same direction when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is, how much, and I know how much of the price of the speaker is really allocated to how expensive the cabinet is, if that makes sense. Is that the most expensive part or component of a loudspeaker, the cabinet, or is it the drivers and the
It
crossover
usually,
design?
exactly. I was going to say it's usually neither. It's usually the crossover. The parts that are actually make up the crossovers are generally the costliest part of a speaker. But it's everything. When you combine everything, that's why you end up at the price points you're at for these, top 1% or 5% speakers, whether you're talking Magical, whether you're talking Rockport, whether you're talking my speakers. And it doesn't really matter. We all strive to make the best speakers we possibly can. The cost comes from the materials we use to make these speakers. And we've all gone our slightly different directions. And Jay, I've never preached to you and said to you, hey, you have to do this and you have to do that. From day one, I asked you to come into the room, sit down, and have a listen. I asked you to make up your own mind, because it's not for me to preach to you and tell you this is the best you can have. It's for me to tell you, please sit down, enjoy what you're listening, and let me know what you think. And that's been my opinion forever and will always be. I'm not here to drive into you that you have to do this and you have to do this. It's come and listen to the results.
You have used Berlin Tweeter and a Soft Dome. Tell me,
Correct.
and the audience, of course, from your own, I want to hear it from you, because you definitely have left me with my jaw open the times you've explained to me certain things about loudspeaker design. What are strengths and weaknesses of both tweeters? Beryllium and Soft Dome.
They're both fantastic tweeters when used correctly, and the reality is they can both sound fantastic, which is why when you listen to our speakers, you don't know whether it's a soft dome or a brilliant tweeter. They both work really well. The reason we use different tweeters is I refuse to put a resistor in line with a tweeter in order to make its efficiency match the rest of the drivers. So I will change the tweeter so that it matches the drivers without having to include a resistor in the circuit path, which I think is pretty much the death of a tweeter when you do. It changes the sound much more dramatically than changing the dome material, because all these speakers still sound fantastic, whether it's a dome, a soft dome, whether it's a beryllium, whether it's a ribbon tweeter. They all have strengths, but they're much more similar than dissimilar when used correctly.
Okay, understood. And there is a question here by Carlos. He's asking if you are right now, and I'm going to say you aren't. So forgive me for answering this in advance. But I think that's the answer from someone who wants to keep improving, and that's the question. The question is, how satisfied are you right now with a Cora speaker's musical performance? And I'm going to say, well, as a designer, you're never happy. You're always dissatisfied because you're always trying to improve the product going forward. If you could shine a light on that, and let us know what you.
The Acora speakers, I think, are absolutely fantastic at this point in time, and the VRCs are the pinnacle of how great they've come to. But that's part of the reason why I do these shows. I like hearing the criticisms, as crazy as that sounds. Of you should go listen to this speaker because this speaker can do this, or you should go listen here, or this is what I'm hearing, or whatever. And I take each and every one of these comments very, very seriously. And I go listen, and I first off I say, do they have merit? And then second off, I say, well, let me go listen here. Let me see what I can hear that these people are talking about, and would that be a benefit for me to incorporate in this speaker or in the next speaker designer? Is that something that I should look at? So absolutely, I am always going to strive to make things better and better and better. Do I think they're the best things that are ever going to be made? God, I hope not. I hope at some point in time we have some magic technology that you put in a disc and you hit play, and that 5 musicians or 50 musicians or one musician shows up in front of you live, a la Star Trek, and they're right in the room with you. And until that time happens, I will strive to continue to improve in the amplifiers, preamplifiers, and everything else that we touch to get to that level.
You know, one thing that's interesting is the fact that typically when I see other brands, loudspeaker brands, that is, and I look up and down their lineup, usually the more affordable speakers tend to have, obviously, there is no cost, no object approach, right? Because you have to take some shortcuts. But the design, the actual cabinet design, the materials change to hit a different price point. With you, it's still the same cabinet construction across all your lines, correct? You still use granite.
We have granite in most of them. We do have the quartz, which you heard the white ones in Washington, which you absolutely fell in love with.
Yes.
I mean, and yes, all our speakers I've never been designed to a price point. They've been designed, especially the SRC line, the granite ones, were always designed to fit a room. It's what is the best speaker for this room size. Our stand mounts, the SRBs, are designed for room 80 to 150 square feet. As much as you might say the Wilson, whatever, the speakers or the Magical M9s are the best speakers on this planet, we all know we're not going to put those in a 10 by 10 foot room. They're just not going to work. So why does somebody that's unfortunately stuck in a 10 by 10 foot room or a 10 by 15 foot room, why do they have to suffer with speakers that have not been designed to work in that space to the absolute utmost of audio technology that we can get them to? It's a disservice to the audiophile that is in that size of a room. And that's why I designed the SRB for that size of a room. That's why the SRC ones were designed for my room. I mean, they are a two-way with the soft dome tweeter, a single 7-inch driver. They fit my room. One of my rooms at home, my main listening room, is 20 by 22. That was the speaker that fit that room the absolute best after trying up-team designs. That was the one. The SRC2s, those were designed because I knew that somebody who had a bigger room or wanted a little bit more power and energy in the lower end, they were designed to fit rooms, 300, 400 square feet and up. And that's what we did. The VRCs are really the unicorn of the line, if you want the truth, because one of the design specs I made for the VRCs, as I said, how can we get one of these no cost, no object loudspeakers in average people's homes? I mean, how can we make it work in a 20 by 20 room, or a 10 by 15 foot room, or a 15 by 20 foot room? And the VRC transcends that boundary. And that's why, I mean, I know you've heard it in big rooms only. You've heard it at Expona, and you heard it at in Florida, and you weren't present at the show, or even better, Pacific Audio Fest. But I mean, we've used the VRCs in smaller rooms, in 15 by 15 foot rooms, and they sound exactly like what they did in Florida. I mean, they pretty much take the room out of the equation, which is a very different approach than most loudspeakers do. But we design for room size. We always have. The compromise of price point has never entered into it. I mean, the quartz cabinets, those were designed, to be honest with you, because I mean, we kept getting approached by people that say, I love the speakers, I love the way they sound, but if I could have them in white, I would be able to listen to music. Well, great. I will do that 1% compromise by putting them in a man-made quartz material so that you can still listen to them at home. Am I going to tell you that they're every bit as good as the granite ones? They're 1%. They're slightly softer in some cases. You mean, depending on the equipment, they because they are a little bit softer, they don't have as much transient dynamics. For if you're with some of the, an integrated amplifier, for instance, if you're with an i50 from Audio Research, would I tell you to buy the SRC ones or the QRC ones? I would tell you to buy the QRC ones, even though they're substantially less, because they're going to work better. There's more synergistic harmony between the two. The SRC one overall, though, if you can drive them properly, they're going to give you that extra 1 little percent. But I mean, it's the same thing with the speakers you have in your room, Jay. If we were to take an average $10,000 integrated amplifier on them, are they going to sound right? No, you're going to be better off going down to the Sashas or something that more complements them properly. It's a lot of this has to do about synergy between products. So just to say this is the best product on the planet and this is what you should always use, that's I mean, everything's got to match. Everything's got to be the same to be where you need it to be in the best price point for return. I mean, there's a value for return.
Okay, so I am going to put you on blast right now. People are going to love this question. I really formulated this question. I was not prepared to ask, but I'm going to ask it. So you did. So 2018 Cora Acoustics essentially is publicly known. Okay. You have, of course, you have been doing this for longer than that. Tell me, before Cora was born, what were your speakers of choice? Before you created your passion, Cora Acoustics, what speakers were you listening to? What was your beginning?
Before I created Cora Acoustics, Jay, we're going back roughly 35 years, because I still had granite speakers 35 years ago, even though they were called Cora Acoustics. What other speakers do I own? I have a pair of B&W 801s, one of the original Model Fs that I still have. I have a pair of KEF 105s. I have a pair of KEF 104.2s. I have a pair of Lin Cans. I have Sarahs. I have Magnapan Timpani 1Ds. I have so many speakers that it's not even funny. And but that's where I developed this, to say all these speakers are, and I have Wilson Watt puppies as well. I have original Wilson Watt puppies. I have had a whole line of puppies. I've had Ariel's acoustics. I've had, I mean, there's so many speakers I've had that I can't even count them, that I still own. I probably still own about 30 different pairs of speakers at this point. And that's why I say to you, when people say go listen to this room because this is what it's doing, I believe all these speakers are magnificent. We have 20 of you. You saw the question before about what qualities are most important to you. And the reality is everything is important. So you have speakers that are absolutely fantastic in one specific quality, and then mediocre or very good in 20 others, and then poor in 1, 2, or 3. Okay. I want to try and develop a speaker that's fantastic in every single quality. Are we there? I think we're very, very close. Do I think there's room for improvement? I would be ignorant to say that there isn't a room for improvement in anything.
Okay, and your speakers are clearly very heavy because of the construction, because of the cabinet, the materials used. Someone is asking here, and I'm going to read the question to you. I'm going to put it on the screen. Would you
Hmm.
would you recommend keeping them on wheels instead of spikes? Would that hurt their musical performance?
What's that? The Acora speakers.
Yes, because
The
they're so
Acora
heavy.
speak The core speakers are designed to be coupled, so I would absolutely tell you that wheels would be detrimental. Footers are detrimental. You mean the best thing is spikes, or even better, bolting them straight to a concrete substrate to turn them into, you mean, part of this foundations of a building. I mean, that's not my technology. This goes all the way back to when Lynn brought out the Sarahs, that you would take their stands and you would literally put in 4 screws and put their spikes onto 4 screws that you would put into studs in a house. They would make a massive difference to do that to the speakers. I'm not the guy who developed this. I'm the guy who learned from this 30 years ago. Okay. So no, the way I design the speakers, they should definitely be coupled. And you could probably answer this yourself. You brought in your
Mhm.
XL, you brought in your Wilsons, and you had them on wheels. How much of a difference did it make once you started changing the footers and the
Big
coupling?
difference.
It's
There's
exactly.
quite a bit
So
of yeah, no
I'm
doubt.
not gonna.
People,
I'm. I'm not going to tell you spikes are the best solution for every single speaker, because that's not true. A lot of that has to do with the design, the vibration, the frequency control, whether the speaker should be coupled, which lowers the frequency, the resonant frequency of the cabinet, or whether it should be left to stay on its own, so that you have a little bit of energy dampening based on movement of the cabinet. I mean, again, this all sits down to go and have a listen to it. Now, here's your fun fact of the day. One square inch of aluminum weighs exactly the same as 1 square inch of granite. Okay, so
really?
if
Oh,
they made an aluminum cabinet the same size, the same thickness as we made our granite cabinets, they would weigh exactly the same, with
I,
one difference: they would still have to use bracing. We don't.
I never. That's interesting. Wow, I never knew that. Never knew.
So,
Do you voice your speakers when you design them?
absolutely,
Okay. What is it?
absolutely.
Okay, and do measurements or no measurements, right? No measurements
I
whatsoever.
know, oh, no, absolutely. We do tons of measurements to begin with. Everything is designed by measurements, by computers. I mean, I come from the IT world, Jay. You know that from me. So, I mean, we do all sorts of measurement and testing and theoretical measurements and the theory behind it and simulations before I go into actual design. But once the design phase happens, measurements are still extensively used, but the final decisions are made by voicing. They're made by me by year and a team I trust.
Home theater. Are you planning to make any home theater speakers at some point? Is that something you're interested, or you want to keep it strictly 2 channel?
I am interested in making you enjoy music. So if you tell me that for you to enjoy music, you're going to need 5 speakers in your house, then if that becomes what I see as a requirement to bring you into this musical universe that we all enjoy, then I will go down that road. At this point in time, I'm focused on making the best 2 channel speakers I possibly can. But I'm never going to say never to that. I mean, my goal is to increase the audience in the audiophile industry from the 1 or 2% that we are of the population to hopefully 5, 10%. That will grow the entire industry. That will make us have more products, more availability, and that will actually bring prices down. I mean, production of products brings prices down. We see that with cars. We see that with cell phones. We see that with laptops. Look at the price of a laptop right now. You can go to any store and buy one for sub $500. We go back 20 years ago or 15 years ago, they were $3,000 to $5,000. Why have they come down? Because of the amount that being manufactured. That holds true everywhere. So my goal is to get more people into the audiophile world.
Last question for you. I know you have to go. We're short on time. Is Are we going to see a new Acora acoustic displayed at a next show or anything? Because you hit me in the face with a statement, speaker, your flagship, out of nowhere. You decided to throw it in the back of the vehicle and drive with it and say, you know what, I'm going to come out with guns blazing. And next thing you know, I'm giving you the best of show. And so I want to know, am I expecting the same when I see you next time?
Jay, I always have designs happening in the background. I mean, those VRC ones, which just sort of appeared magically out of nowhere, have been in development for 7 years. Okay, they were being voiced for close to 7 years between from the beginning to when they actually came out was 7 year over 7 years at this point in time. Do I have other speakers in development right now? Absolutely, I do. Do any of them deserve to be released at this point in time? Well, I guess you'll have to wait and see. But to be honest with you, probably not in the next 12 months.
Okay, but you're not. And last, this is a good question from someone. You're still not designing your own drivers. Someone is making your drivers, correct?
Right now, I don't believe that I can re-engineer the wheel well enough in order to just do it to say, hey, here's new drivers. We're dealing with companies such as ScanSpeak, which, I mean, you turn around, you look at your Wilsons, that's pretty much who's making most of the drivers and your speakers there as well. They are a fantastic engineering firm overseas that do nothing but speaker design and have fantastic engineers there. We have some prototypes of drivers that we are designing ourselves. Will we use them shortly? Not if they're not better than what we can get from ScanSpeak or from any of the other manufacturers that are out there. Our goal here is not to put our back up and say, hey, we make the best cabinets, we make the best drivers, we make the best crossover parts. Our goal here is to make the best speaker we possibly can, or in Audio Research's case, the best products we possibly can. And I mean, if we have to use somebody else's engineering because they're that much better, then so be it. I will use their engineering.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Valerio. It's been an honor having you here, and going over everything we have gone over with regards to audio research, and of course, your own baby, your own child, Cora Acoustics. I always find it super interesting to talk to you at shows, to catch up with you. You bring so many amazing insights to me, and obviously, I've learned along the way many great things. Those conversations that we have until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, that we end up getting tired, and your wife ends up texting you at the end of the night, "Are you coming upstairs to the room?" But my apologies for all of that. But I'm also so passionate as you are with regards to this hobby, and hopefully I catch up with you in the near future. I might be going to the Capital Audio Fest show, and I think it's November, correct?
Correct. I think it's the second week of November, if I remember correctly at this point. I know we're doing Toronto before that, so maybe you'll come and visit us up in Toronto and do a tour of the Acora location as well. We'll
Yeah,
see.
that
We'll
would be great.
talk.
We got to plan it.
We'll
We got to
talk.
plan it. There's always those. I'm always open. If it makes sense for me, it makes sense for the brand. I'm always open. So I'm trying to do greater and bigger things with my production value. And so I thank you for being a part of this too. Okay. Have a great
Thank you.
rest of your weekend. Enjoy your time with the wife and the family, and everyone else who's watched us. Thank you again for supporting my cause, supporting my efforts here at jaysaudiolab.com. Stay tuned for more content. Peace.